Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Reality Chat Room with Damz. I'm your host, Damz. And today we are diving into a very important topic, forgiveness. Today we'll be talking everything forgiveness. You know, what to do when you have to forgive someone, when you're offended, how to practice forgiveness, in short. And we have our guest here. Over to you, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Collins Gilbert. I am an associate at a venture capital firm. So let me tell you what that means. At my firm, we invest in early stage technology startups. So we've invested in companies like PiggyVest, Paystack, Reliance HMO. Yeah, I think those are some common ones you would know. So yeah.
In short, you're a tech bro.
By association.
Okay.
Association.
Okay, so without wasting much of our time, let's just go right into our topic for today.
Sure.
Forgiveness. When you hear forgiveness, what comes to mind?
Letting go, firstly. And being free, I would say. Yeah, so, you know, maybe to start with defining forgiveness, I would define forgiveness as choosing to let go of an hurt from somebody else, right? So somebody has offended you, someone has deceived you, made you feel sad, bad, ashamed, embarrassed, and you make a conscious, intentional decision to let go of that hurt and that feeling so that when you see that person again next time, you are not annoyed, you are not upset, you know, and you don't feel hurt.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy do you think forgiveness is?
I don't think you can put it on the scale. I don't think you can be put on the scale.
I don't think so too, because I feel like it depends on the magnitude of the offense that would determine how fast or how long it takes you to
and the person
forgive.
As well. Yeah, because you can have two people offended exactly the same way by the same person, and one person forgives faster than the other. So you as a person, that's also a factor.
Okay. So my first question to you would be that does forgiveness require the other person to, you know, be sober? Or does it require the other person to even acknowledge the fact that they've offended you before you can forgive?
No. Short answer is no.
Okay.
And here's why. One background I'd like to set is that forgiveness is firstly for yourself, right? Because it's like when you choose not to forgive, you are hurting yourself thinking you're hurting someone else, right? When you see the person, you're upset, you're uncomfortable around the person, you are sometimes vengeful towards the person, you want to hurt the person, you feel bitter towards that person. All those feelings actually physically have effects on your body. So you're hurting yourself more than you think you're hurting the person. So forgiveness is firstly for yourself. So even if the person does not apologize, I think that it's the healthy thing to do is to forgive. It's for your own well-being. Yeah.
Even when the person has not asked for forgiveness.
Yeah, because like some people might not even know they've offended you. I've seen people who are offended at people that don't know offended them.
Yeah, I know that happens.
What do you do then?
So
what if it's someone who offended you, does not know they offended you, and maybe they are superior, so you can't challenge them in that situation? What do you do?
You would advise that person just forgives?
It's for your own well-being. Yeah.
Well,
it's hard. It is, of course. But
why not, you know, advise that they call the person and probably tell them? Sure.
If you're in the position where, and I think that's great advice, if you're in a position where you can reach out to the person and communicate how you felt about what the person did, please, do that, right?
If it's not someone that you can really reach out to,
then what do you do? Maybe
go through an intermediary?
I don't know. If the matter is that serious, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes you just weigh the pros and cons, and you're like, yeah, you know. But again, reason why I would still say, even if the person is not sorry, you need to forgive is this. What if after you tell the person doesn't think that they've done anything wrong?
And you still have to forgive for yourself.
Like, what? Yeah, especially when you can't even avoid the person. And even if you can avoid the person, you still need to forgive for yourself, because it's not just a healthy weight to carry.
Basically. Okay, thank you. So another question would be that what role does time play in forgiveness? We often say that time heals all wounds. Is that correct? First off.
No, I would say no. Time doesn't heal all wounds, at least by itself. I think there's an intentional process that helps to get into the point of healing or wholeness. So time definitely plays a role, but if you are not intentional about the process of healing, you don't get there.
Because I mean, we have people that have carried hurts for years.
Exactly.
And you'll be wondering, like, this thing has been a long time. Why not just forgive and let go? But it's not as easy as people portray it to be.
Yeah.
I think forgiveness has to be one of the hardest things in this life.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's one of the, because if you think about it, your human relationships are probably the most important, one of the most important things about you, you know, outside of work and all these other things. So when that is affected through offense, it's a really hard thing to deal with, because it can disorientate you, or you know, and all of that. So yeah, it's difficult. But to talk about, you know, time and process, you know, a very good example I like to give is how wounds heal, right? If two people get injured the same way, one decides to go treat it, you know, make sure it's well treated, cleaned up, all of that, covered, applies the right medicines or medication, and one decides to not do that. Both of them might heal, the other one might actually grow worse, but let's assume both of them heal. But I think one would heal faster and maybe would have less of a scar than the other one who did not, you know, choose to treat it. There's a high chance that the one that didn't even choose to treat it could die from that.
Yes,
from that one.
yes.
So I think it's a very similar way.
So you're liking offense to that, or forgiveness to that? So
I'm liking offense to the wound, and forgiveness to
treating the wound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it requires intentional process.
Okay. So as a Christian, how do you respond to someone, you know, who keeps hurting you? Like, you're forgiven the first time, you're forgiven the second time, and this person keeps hurting you.
Yeah. First thing first, it's really annoying, and you begin to feel like you're being taken for granted, or you know, person is taking advantage of you. But I think first thing is to still forgive, but set clear boundaries, right? If there's anything within your power to restrict the ability of that person to keep taking advantage of you, then do that, right? Okay. But not to, you know, you don't retaliate, you don't, you know, try to make the person feel less of themselves or insult them, but politely set boundaries, make your expectations clear. So sometimes some people don't know that what they're doing is wrong, or even when they do, they choose to stay ignorant and keep doing what they're doing because it's a habit for them. But you need to still keep, you try your best to keep communicating, especially when it's a situation where you have to be in that person's space as often as possible. Maybe it's a colleague.
Okay, so we've mentioned that some people do not know that they offend you. And while I want to believe that, we often say that, you know, everybody knows what they are doing. I'm just trying to now reconcile that statement with some people do not actually know. Truly, they do not know.
Yeah, everyone knows what they're doing, but not everyone is aware of the consequence of what they're doing.
Okay, like, or maybe the effects.
Exactly, maybe effect is a better word. So they might not be aware that, oh, this is the effect it's having on someone. Like, I'm sure you've had situations, at least I have, where I said something, and what I meant, my intent was not how the person who heard me interpreted it, and that person got offended that you meant that. So this was something that happened in school.
Okay.
I had a group of friends. We were working on something, like we ran a small business together, and after we were done with the sale for that day, I think we had to clear things up, but I was busy with something else, and one of my friends came to me. I was like, oh, we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I just told her, oh, use your discretion.
Okay.
Right? And she got offended. Right? I know, but you know, so that was my reaction to when she told me she was offended. I was like, why? What would you be offended by?
So her now, she felt like you were saying she doesn't have sense.
Exactly. Exactly. So you get it. So to me, yeah, I knew that what I was saying was not an insult. So I knew what I was saying, but I didn't know
the wrong way.
And I had to apologize because, hey, it might not be an offense to me, but it is an offense to me.
And we are really not responsible for how people interpret whatever we say. We are responsible for what we say, but not how people take them or what it means to them.
But of course, you still have to be. So, for example, I know I would never say something like that to that person.
Too high again,
because, you know, so I can't say, oh, I'm responsible for what I say, but I'm not responsible for how she reacts, and I keep saying something that I know actually offends her. Of course,
that would be you deliberately doing what you know.
Now, in that kind of situation, which I think is the question you're asking, you have to be consistently clear. I know sometimes you get tired of saying it again and again, but you still have to forgive, make it clear, make clear your expectations, and I think restrict as much as you can without malice or. Yeah.
Okay, how do we differentiate between forgiveness and reconciliation?
I think they're related, right? I think that
Do they go hand in hand?
When you say reconciliation, is it the offender reconciling with the offended, or the offended
reconciling with the offender? Or it could even be either way.
If I would assume, and I may be wrong, but I would assume that reconciliation is best when it comes from the offender. Like when I offended you and I want to reconcile with you, I think it's easier for reconciliation to happen then than the other way around. But again, if the offended has, forgiving the person, reconciliation is a lot easier either way.
Okay, so I feel that we might actually forgive one for, whatever the person has done, but you necessarily don't have to reconcile with the person.
Maybe you should define reconciliation for me. How are you defining it?
Okay, so reconciliation to me means that this person has hurt me. I'm no longer angry with the person. I've forgiven the person, but I don't want to maintain the same relationship we had before.
Okay. Yeah.
So it could be my own form of creating boundaries or shielding myself from, future offenses or.
Yeah, I get that, and it makes sense because, like, again, you don't, it's like you've been beaten by a dog and then you still keep going. You still keep going to play with the same dog that just beat you. You have to maybe be careful. But forgive me, not trying to compare human beings to dogs. Okay, but again, the way I'll think about it is this: if the person offended you if there's no need for that person to be in your space as much, it's fine, right? But again, keyword is it's not out of malice, it's not out of vengeance, it's not out of retaliation to that person. Like it's more like
just you trying to protect your peace.
Yeah, but it's not also out of fear.
Yeah,
it's just like, I know that this person has not changed their ways. And so if I keep them close enough, they would repeat the same thing. So let me not even give them the opportunity to repeat the same thing. But you still have to forgive. And I think that as you forgive, you come to a point where even if the person's around you, you already know how to control the environment so that that person
but now the person, the offender now, you're forgiving and you're cool. But you don't want to go back to being what you were before.
No, I think it's natural. It's natural. It's natural, but again, don't do it out of malice. Don't do it out of.
I'm not doing it out of malice
anger.
now.
Don't do it out of fear. It has to, you always have to, as Christians, we always have to respond to the position of love, right? Now that person will have to earn your trust. It's the truth, right? The person will still have to earn your trust.
What if he doesn't earn it?
And it's fine. Like you stay.
Let's just stay like that.
But you're not. I don't think it is. I don't think again, it depends on the extent of the offense in some way and the type of offense. But sometimes I feel like you probably give the person an opportunity.
Because I've noticed that people often want forgiveness and reconciliation to go hand in hand.
I don't think it comes at the same time. They expect
that, if you say you are forgiving me, then let's go back to the way we used to be. And that doesn't come, it doesn't come that way.
Yeah, not in all cases, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also, we often talk about forgiving others, but how about forgiving ourselves? I've noticed that sometimes we don't extend the same grace we extend to others to ourselves.
Yeah.
Some of us are carrying traumas from, childhood, and we are just there. We've not forgiven ourselves.
Yeah.
How do we, go about this? How do we, solve this issue?
So there's a parable in the scripture that Jesus used to teach forgiveness. And it was about, a servant who was owing his master a certain amount of money. So let's say $1 million, right? And the father forgave the debt. The master forgave the debt. Okay. Then another person was owing the servant maybe like 10,000 naira and decided to send that person into prison.
Yeah.
And I think that it's instrumental to how we think about forgiveness, that we firstly have to be aware of the extent of our sins that Jesus came to die for and forgive us without us doing nothing. Like, we did not even ask him to forgive us before he went to die on the cross, right? Like, if anything, we were committing more sins at the time he was dying.
So I think that's the more reason why, as Christians, we should not always expect people to ask for forgiveness before we forgive them. So we often talk about forgiveness and forgiving others, but sometimes we don't extend the same grace we extend to others to ourselves. So how do we practice forgiving ourselves?
Yeah, I would like to use a parable that Jesus taught in the scripture as a foundation for this. So there was a master who had given his servant, they borrowed his servant a certain amount of money, let's say a billion naira. So the servant was owing 1 billion and had not paid back, and the master was upset, and he pleaded, and the master forgave the debt, blah blah blah. He was happy. And then someone else was owing him, let's say 10,000 naira. Look at the difference. And he sent that person to prison, got the police to arrest him and sent him to prison.
Forgetting that he has just been forgiven of his own offense.
Exactly. So, and I think like that's the way many of us are, right? Like we forget that we also deserve forgiveness, right? Because, most importantly, because Christ has forgiven us of all our sins, all our mistakes, all our wrongs. And so we should extend that forgiveness to ourselves as well, and then to others. Do you understand? Like it's the commandments are simple. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and then love your neighbors as yourself. I think it's ironic to say that you're forgiving others and you can't forgive yourself. So I think the process is, firstly, admit that, yes, I made a mistake, but Christ has forgiven me for this mistake. Because many times the things that people don't forgive themselves for is something that maybe they're still reaping the consequence of. And so they regret that decision and beat themselves up. But they should also remember that Christ can take that mess and, in the famous words, turn it into a message. So I think it's just remembering, firstly, Christ has forgiven me, and there's something that can be done with this story. Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone struggling to forgive a close friend or a family member?
Pray firstly, because forgiveness is not since man fell, is not an easy thing. Right?
Okay. So I think I understand when you say pray now, because I was going to say that when people say pray for things like this, I'm like, don't over spiritualize this thing.
Over spiritualize it though.
But I guess that forgiveness is not easy.
Yes.
Sometimes it requires that you actually pray and trust God to strengthen you to forgive.
Even Jesus prayed now before he went to the cross. He prayed for strength now. So even though the Bible didn't say he was praying for forgiveness or praying for us, but he knew that the burden was heavy, right? And it is. And
I think we already established that you don't need to merit forgiveness, or your offender does not need to merit forgiveness before you forgive. Because even Jesus forgave us when we did not deserve it. We didn't even ask for forgiveness. He forgave us. So we should not always expect that people acknowledge their wrongdoings or apologize before we forgive them, right? But I just feel that with siblings and family members, it's quite difficult to forgive them.
Yeah.
There are some families now, and you just wonder, they are having these siblings fighting with each other, and you'll be like,
I think it comes from a place of, these people are supposed to be the closest persons to me. They are supposed to be my confidant. They're supposed to be my safe space.
Oh, I see.
So if my safe space is hurting me, I don't feel safe anymore, and it goes deeper. Exactly.
I see.
So
are we agreeing that it's easier for you to forgive an outsider than forgiving your own blood or your own relation?
I would say yes. Yeah.
Okay, so have you ever had any case where your sibling offended you and you had to be the one giving forgiveness, or have you ever been the one
that offended?
Yes. And they had to forgive you.
Yes, because there's no way I've lived the 20+.
No, one that's really
serious.
Yes, that you have to call a meeting for.
No, definitely not. Definitely
no, it's
not.
just the normal.
Yeah, that's normal. And that was more of our teenage. Yeah, nothing to call it.
Okay, talking about teenage years, so I remember myself and my brother, my immediate younger brother. So this one is not, when I think about it now, it's not even that serious. But then it was. So what happened? I can't remember vividly what happened now, but I knew that he beats me.
Wait, you say your junior brother?
My junior brother. So maybe I was trying to correct him for something, and he just had to be blows.
Don't try that at home, guys. Don't.
And then I thought of it. I was like, what can I do? I was like, okay, let me go to his school. It was still in secondary school at the time. I think I had finished. So I went to his school to report him. And I said, I want to see the principal, or I don't know, I want to see one teacher. Why did you come? What are you here for? And I explained myself. This was, fortunately or unfortunately for me, he's a good boy in school.
Oh no.
So it felt like this person that you came to report cannot do
Yeah.
Something like this. So they didn't even punish him. Nothing.
I'm
And
sorry.
I think I carried that out for a while.
Oh.
But
I'm sorry.
eventually I still had to forgive. We are like best of friends now. My very, very close pal.
Cool.
So I just feel that some of those things happen.
Yeah.
Teenage, as a child, growing, you offend people unknowingly. Something that doesn't mean anything to you might really mean
Exactly.
a lot to the other person.
Exactly.
So at some point, we are either giving forgiveness or receiving forgiveness.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something to remember, that you're never always going to be the person that is giving out forgiveness. There are people that you have offended that even chose to forgive you without your knowledge.
You knowing.
They just went on like nothing happened. Yeah.
So, but do you think that it's always advisable to pretend like nothing happened, or not? Maybe not pretend now. Instead of calling the person and explaining to the person what they did, so that they don't repeat it again. Because if you just forgive and the person does not even know what they did, they might repeat it.
Yeah, I think it's if it's someone who will constantly be around you, or at least regularly be around you, I think it's good to have that conversation to avoid a repeat. But if it's someone that maybe
it's just a one-off,
yeah, you can choose
just
your
let it go. Okay, so another question is, when we talk about forgiveness among family members or romantic partners, it can be so challenging.
Yep.
For example, how do you forgive a cheating partner?
That's
we
tough.
should pray, Abby.
Of course.
Because you mentioned prayer the other time.
Yeah, no. Nothing is beyond God. And I think this is maybe a very good example of reconciliation. Like
okay.
reconciliation. So with a cheating partner, definitely you have to forgive, because it's a big hurt, but you have to.
So I think we need to establish the fact that forgiveness is a must.
Exactly.
Regardless of the offense.
It's compulsory.
So whether a cheating partner,
it's not, well, it's easier said than done. Like
of course it is.
It's simple, but it's not easy to do. But and that's where prayer comes in. It gives you the strength to do these hard things. But in addition, with reconciliation now, I think it's up to the discretion of the partner, the non-cheating partner, to decide, okay, do I want this person to remain as my partner, right? Because if you know that person remaining as your partner will mean you, at least for a period of time, feeling hate towards that person, not trusting their interactions with the opposite sex, making you feel paranoid, it might be best to go separate ways, at least for a while, or if you can't deal with it forever. But if you think, if you've dealt with it, you've maybe gotten therapy, gotten counsel, you've healed, and you think that you're going to still continue to trust that person, because with a partner, that's the person you trust the most after God, right?
And them doing that is like they've broken your trust already.
You cannot it's probably the highest level of
offense or distrust. Okay. So how do you forgive a deadbeat father, an absent mom? I mean, I'm just citing this scenario so that we go deep into these things. Because it's easier to say forgive if it's just, she borrowed money from me, she did not pay back, all of those things, maybe it's easier to say forgive. But some of these things go so deep that
forgiving an absent parent, I think for me it's, and I can say this because I experienced it, is that I am grateful. I think what helped me was I came to an understanding that, hey, you know what, Collins, you turned out fine without this person. Like, it would have been great to have this person around, but it wasn't around as much. So, sorry, but you're fine. You were raised well. You have good manners. You're loved. So maybe a few things are missing, but you can learn it. You'll figure it out. And so from that point, I looked at myself as whole. Like, I didn't need a father to complete me. And so it was easier to forgive his absence. Do you understand? If I feel like something was definitely missing, and because of that, my life is...
Exactly, because so many people, they feel that if they had their father or their mother with them while they were growing, their life would have been better. So for them, forgiveness is not as easy as it came to you.
I think getting to that point where you're like, you know what, I think I'm fine. I'm not missing out on so much. You have missed out on things, of course, but like, even though I am grateful that I'm fine. I'm grateful to God that I'm fine. That helps. I think that helps a lot in getting to the point where you then forgive them.
Okay, so I think we talked about this time heals all wounds before. So we already established that it's not true per se. That statement
just
is not
alone
true.
is not.
Yes, in itself. So it means that if it takes me 5 years to forgive, if it takes me 10 years to forgive.
So I again, remember it's for yourself. So the longer you wait it out, well, the longer you
it's for yourself. But the people taking long to forgive, it's not because they don't want to forgive. They haven't just gotten to that point where they can let go.
No, but some people actually don't want to forgive. There are people who would tell you I'm not going to forgive you for doing that.
Okay, I think there are people like
I
think there are people like that. So we're not talking about people like that. We're talking about people that want to forgive, but the hurt is just so deep that they cannot bring themselves to forgive.
I would say try different things to get to that point. I'm not saying rush the process, because again, there's like if you use the wound analogy, there are just certain things that no amount of medication will speed up. It just has to go through that timeline, right? But make sure that you are at least within your power, you are maximizing whatever you can maximize.
So what came to my mind is that while you are trying to process forgiveness, another thing I'm going to say is that forgiveness is a process. It's not a journey. I mean, it's not a destination. It's a journey. It's a process.
Is it not a destination? I think you get to a point where you see that person and you're just like,
okay,
I love
it's a process that leads to a destination. Maybe we should say that. I was going to say something before I said that. And I can't, I can't remember what I was going to say now. So I was going to say that we're talking about how deep the wound is and how long it takes to forgive. Okay, so because we are Christians, if it takes me like 5 years to forgive or 10 years to forgive, and in the space of that 10 years, rapture took place or something happened and I died. Like, what's my fate?
As much as I understand, happy to be corrected, but as much as I understand, the intent of your heart and the effort towards that point of forgiveness matters, and God sees that, right?
The motives.
It's not like, I was avoiding forgiving this person.
We're making conscious.
That's why I said it has to be intentional. It has so let me use this example, wounds again. Now, there are people who are diabetic, and because of that condition, their wounds take longer to heal. Right? If the person is doing everything to treat the wound and make it heal, you can't fault the person, at least for the diabetes has already happened, but you can't fault the person that the wound isn't healing because they're not treating it. It's because they have an underlying condition that is causing it not to heal as quickly. So if you think of that, like, it might take longer to heal, but if the person dies in the process, I think that, as long as the intention was there and actions were being taken towards that, it matters.
We just need to know that forgiveness is for ourselves.
Exactly.
And not for the other person.
Exactly.
Because forgiving a molester, forgiving a rapist, forgiving a pedophile, these things are not easy. These things are not easy. You find people carrying this trauma, like from childhood, even up to this moment. And some, they don't even want to hear about forgiveness when you're telling them.
And some unfortunately pass it on to their children. They pass on that trauma to their children, right? Yeah.
Okay, so another question is, how do we balance justice and forgiveness?
Interesting. Okay, so again, forgive, but I think justice is important, right?
You keep saying forgive.
Let's just say that okay, we're all doing that.
Just take for an example the rapist that we mentioned, pedophile.
Justice is important. Justice is not just for the protection of, it's not just for your feelings, it's also for the protection of others. Okay. Right? Yeah. One person, like a person that is a pedophile with one child, most likely will be with another if he's not, or if she's not, made to face the law. Right? The law is meant to make the society safe for everyone. So it's not because you want to see the person suffer, but you taking actions that have consequences, and beyond myself, it could affect somebody else. You could cause someone else to suffer. Then let the law take care of that person. Let the law protect everyone.
While I understand that, I think, when we talk about justice and forgiveness, it depends on the person offended. The person might want to pursue justice or might want to not.
Yes, of course.
And that's absolutely fine,
it's
right?
Up to you. But if someone came to me and said they were abused in a certain way, of course I would ask the person, do you want us to pursue justice? Because I think it's something that
you think that they should pursue justice.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the safety of others.
Because I mean, we've had cases of rape that they try to cover up, and they just sweep it under the carpet. They have a conversation with the people affected, and they say, we don't want to take this thing further.
It's up to them.
It's up to them.
But I will advise, please report.
When it comes to cases like this,
like physical abuse, sexual abuse,
assault, and all of that, take
because
let the law take
most likely
its full course.
it would extend to someone else.
Most likely.
People are rarely one-time offenders. Rarely. There are people who change their ways, but
after
but
rarely. it's not common. So a rapist would
most likely do
it again. Okay. I'm trying to still think about that in my head. Like, can't we have people that they did it once and
No, sure. I said rarely. I didn't say never. There will definitely be people like that, and there are definitely people like that who made a mistake once, or not. Let me not even call it a mistake to belittle it. Did something wrong once. And
is it even a mistake? It's not a mistake.
That's why I said it's not a mistake.
Deliberate action.
Exactly. So they did it once and found their way back to the right track. But again, there are not many people like that. There are not many. Yeah.
Okay.
Many of them are either forced to the right track by the law or something.
So also, I want us to establish the fact that because I am pursuing justice does not mean that I have not forgiven the person.
Exactly.
I've forgiven you, but I still want to pursue justice.
Yes.
Because you find some Christians start quoting 70 times, 7 times. This person has not even offended you up to, you're supposed to forgive. Why take it to the court? Why do this? Why do that? I've forgiven, quite all right, but I still want you to face the full wrath of the law. Yeah. So, and that's okay.
Well, maybe using the word wrath sounds like I want you to burn. Maybe not there. But again, like I said, for me, the perspective is always protect others as well, because like this person will most likely do it again.
Whether you forgive or not, there's always consequences for every action. So you should be ready that whatever comes out of this, you are ready to just bear it. See it as the result or the reward for your actions. Yes.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful session.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we have to bring the session to a close now. So let me just end with this. It is right for us to accept that some relationship may not return to what they were. And even though it might not be what we want, it's okay.
Yeah, I think so.
And we should not fault the other person. It's left to them to say, oh, we want to be like this again. Yeah. And they are not wrong for not wanting to be like that.
Yeah, and I think just in line addition to what you said, I think it's unfair to automatically expect reconciliation from someone you offended.
Yes, it's very unfair.
I think it is. And
because
I'm falling for that trap.
You don't want them to feel, whatever you have done. Exactly. And there's no how they won't feel it. They are humans.
I've made that mistake before.
Oh, okay.
But let's not get into that. I've made that mistake before, but I think over time I've learned that, hey, people will feel what they feel, and you have to just let them feel it.
Yes.
It will hurt you too, but you made a mistake.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you on this episode of Reality Chat Room with Damz. I believe that someday we'll continue this conversation. Maybe make it's going to be more longer, and we'll have more time to really go deep into the conversation. So besties, we have come to the end of this episode of Reality Chat Room with Damz. You know how we do it. Go to our YouTube channel, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Make sure that you share. Till the next time when we'll meet on another episode of Reality Chat Room with Damz. Do enjoy yourself. Bye.